If you have children or know anyone with little ones, chances are you've seen the toys made by Melissa and Doug. Classic wooden toys. I know we have our fair share at home without many of the bells and whistles that can be distracting to parents, especially ones working from home. So thank you, Melissa and Doug. Their company has been called one of the happiest on the planet. It was started back in 1988 by Melissa and Doug Bernstein, a married couple who created the first toys themselves right in Doug's parents' garage. Today, the company is a massive global business with more than 5,000 products, all designed by Melissa herself. By the time she was 50 years old, Melissa says that she had a happy marriage, 6 great kids, and a successful company that made her independently wealthy. But underneath it all, she was suffering from a lifelong battle with depression, anxiety, and despair that she hid from everyone, including her husband. Melissa has now detailed her struggle and recovery in her new book, LifeLines, an inspirational journey from profound darkness to radiant light. Melissa, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story.
Thank you, Lindsay, for having me.
So from the outside looking in, people would say, well, you seem to have it all, right? Money, career, family. But throughout your life, you say you were racked with this intense, these dark thoughts, asking yourself from a young age, I think even as young as 5-year-olds, why am I here? And what is the absolute meaning of life? Tell us about your childhood and when you realized that you were experiencing the effects of mental illness.
You know, I was born knowing something was utterly awry in my being. And I think from my very first breath, I felt like I was from another planet and I didn't belong here. And yes, from the moment I could form words, I asked myself 3 questions. Why am I here? What is the meaning of life if we are all ultimately going to die? And what am I supposed to do in my brief time here?
Such profound questions at just 5 years old. But you say that it was college where you ultimately hit rock bottom. What was happening to you then, and how did you turn it around?
Yeah, you know, being a creative, I needed to live in my heart and do things that brought me joy in my heart. And when I went to college, I really dropped pretty much everything creative that brought me joy. And I anchored to 2 things only. I anchored to validation through performance, and I anchored to validation through being socially accepted. And I ultimately, in my mind, failed at both. I didn't get accepted to the sorority I wanted, and I didn't get all A+. And when both of those failures occurred, I believed I was utterly worthless because those were the only 2 ways I valued myself.
And yet you met Doug at that same time, right? You were, I think, just 86 pounds. You started to, I think it was anorexia that you had turned to. What brought you out of that?
Well, you know, Doug, in one sense, saved me because he basically forced me to eat, which I was denying myself, because when you are in the throes of an eating disorder, you have a demon in your head that really tells you you cannot eat. So he overrode that demon and forced me to gain weight, which was great. But I still didn't acknowledge I had the underlying issues and was racked with this existential despair until I was much older, really close to middle age, when the cry of my own soul to be seen authentically became so great that I couldn't deny it any longer.
And your toys, as you must know, have just brought joy to millions of children around the world, but 6 children in particular. Your 6 children, who range in age from 13 to 27, have grown up with a mother who writes in her memoir that she never felt connected to them. How did they respond to that, and how painful was that for you to reveal that to them?
You know, it was really painful. I mean, throughout my life, I didn't know how to feel because my feelings of despair were so dark and threatened to submerge me at every turn. I had to deny, repress, and disassociate from everything I felt. So I only had one emotion my whole life, which was at the top of the emotional spectrum. It was great, perfect, good. anything else, I didn't know how to feel. So I desperately wanted children, and I wanted a big family, and I gave them everything I could from a physical need standpoint. But emotionally, I didn't know how to give anything other than, that's great, wonderful, and this idea of wanting to fix them every time they were sad or despairing, because I was so terrified it would do them in as it had threatened to do to me.
And you've decided to share your recovery journey in your new book called LifeLines, an inspirational journey from profound darkness to radiant light. It's rather atypical in style, a mix of diary writing, poetry verses, and stunning photography. It's beautiful to thumb through. Tell us more about why you wanted to make this book.
So I wanted to rip off the mask, to be honest. So many people think that when you have it all, right? When you have material success, when you have the showy homes, when you have the material wealth and the beautiful company and the beautiful family, that everything must be perfect, right? And I wanted to show that we all can have a mental illness. Depression doesn't discriminate. And I was born with this depression, and I will die with it as well. And despite the fact that I have this mental illness and have to work each day to remain steadfast, that doesn't make me any different than anyone else. And I think I wanted to show that I'm human, that I have imperfections and this mental affliction, and show others that they can have the courage to come out and show exactly who they are as well.
Melissa, thank you so much. Your book has already touched so many people, those lives unknown. Thank you for joining us. LifeLines, an inspirational journey from profound darkness to radiant light, is now available wherever books are sold. And if you're struggling with thoughts of suicide or worried about a friend or a loved one, help is available. Call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255-TALK or text TALK to 741-741 for free confidential support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Even if you feel like you're alone, you are not alone.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.